are cannibal. Unsettling facts that'll give you nightmares. There is such thing as fatal insomnia. It's a rare genetic degenerative brain disorder. It starts out mildly and then worsens. Eventually, the person who suffers from it isn't able to sleep at all. And eventually, this leads to death. Okay, so theoretically, it would take 400 human beings to make an iron sword. The average human being has 3.5 to 4 grams of iron, and an iron sword weighs about 1,500 grams. So doing the math, that's about 400 human beings. Around 4,400 unidentified bodies are recovered every single year. And usually, every year, an average of 1,000 of them still remain unidentified. The last execution by guillotine was done in the same year that the first Star Wars movie premiered. To date, the U.S. has lost 6 broken arrows. Now, what is a broken arrow? It's a term used for nuclear weapon accidents, where one has accidentally been launched, fired, detonated, stolen, or lost. So there are 6 unrecovered nuclear weapons out there right now, and that's just from the U.S. alone. If you're a fan of my creepy facts, head over to my YouTube because I have way more there. So pop by and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I bet you didn't know these creepy facts that'll give you nightmares. Victorian England had a bunch of weird, strange fads. For example, tattoos were really popular, especially in Victorian women. Also, postmortem photography was all the rage. In these pictures, when someone would pass, the live family members would pose with them for one final picture. They wanted it to look like the deceased was just sleeping, but unfortunately, they looked very dead. Speaking of Victorian people, they liked to wear jewelry made out of their deceased family members. They would incorporate teeth, hair, and bones in their jewelry. In the Catholic religion, purgatory is an immediate place where souls go, which is neither heaven or hell. But in Rome, there is a small museum that claims to have documentations of hauntings from people whose souls were stuck in purgatory, generally manifesting as a burn mark on the pages of a Bible and other objects. Bloodletting was an important part of any medieval doctor's practices. They'd have a choice of leeches or bloodletting. With the leeches, they would attach leeches to the sick person's body and allow them to suck out the sick blood. With bloodletting, they would cut open the person who was ill and just hope for the best, hoping they would bleed out the illness. In the 19th century, it was actually a pretty big issue to be buried alive. It happened a lot more often than you'd think. Sometimes they would mistake a coma for death, and they would bury someone and they'd still be alive. So they developed something called safety coffin. That way they could warn someone up above that they weren't exactly dead. Poveglia, Italy, is considered to be the most haunted island in the world. An untold number of people died on that island from a plague. They were quarantined there in the 18th century. In the 20th century, that island was then used as a mental asylum, and it currently lies abandoned and underdeveloped. I bet you didn't know about Stephen McDaniel and how he was interviewed on the news about a murder that he actually did. I will be showing this interview. He acts like he's this distraught neighbor wondering how this could have possibly happened. He was putting on a great show, but he did do some things in a strange way. He seems more concerned trying to convince everyone that he had no idea what was going on or where this person could possibly be. In the early hours of the morning, June 26, 2011, Stephen McDaniel broke into the downstairs apartment below him. It was the apartment of Mercer Law School graduate Lauren Giddings. Turns out her and Stephen had went to school together, and he murdered and dismembered her body. 4 days later, Lauren was reported missing by her friends. A local news channel showed up to start interviewing neighbors, and one of them happened to be Stephen. But during the time of this interview, Stephen didn't even know that he was already pinged as a person of interest. Later in the day, after the interview, police searched Stephen's room inside his apartment. They said at that moment, Stephen became completely unhinged, shaking violently and sweating profusely. Soon after searching Stephen's room is when they found Lauren. Well, part of her. Her torso was found inside of a dumpster right in the apartment complex. Her dismembered limbs and head had probably already been carried off to the dump, but fortunately, her torso was still left behind. Police found the packaging of the hacksaw Stephen used to dismember Lauren. It was discovered when they were searching his apartment. They also found that Stephen had stole the master keys to all the apartments, and also a pair of Lauren's panties hidden in Stephen's room. When they got to his computer, they just found that Stephen had stole the master keys to all the apartments, and also a pair of Lauren's panties hidden in Stephen's room. When they got to his computer, they discovered some very deep and demented blog posts. They were all describing torture and violence towards women. He explained how he stalked Lauren, even filming her through her second-story window by sticking his camera on a pole and hoisting it up. He did that right before he murdered her. When he realized she was alone in her room, he used his master key, which he stole from the landlord, and entered her room. She awoke to the sound of Stephen sneaking into her room. As soon as Stephen realized she was awake, he jumped on her and immediately started strangling her. Stephen drug her body to her bathtub. That's where he used a hacksaw to dismember her corpse. Stephen took the dismembered parts and put them in 3 different trash bags and dumped them in dumpsters around the apartment complex. Many people actually believe that Stephen was gearing up to become a serial killer. Now, the interesting part about watching this interview is you can see his whole demeanor change the moment he realizes his crime was going to be discovered. So go ahead, watch it for yourself.
What's up, y'all? I just wanted to take a minute to say a few things. The first thing and the most important thing is thank you. Thank you for all the support, the love, the comments, the donations, watching my videos, everything that y'all have done. It is appreciated more than you know. The people who have also subscribed to my YouTube and watched and listened to my podcast. I'm a barber as my day job. That's what I spend all day doing when I'm not making content. But I would love to be a full-time content creator. And y'all are the reason why that's becoming possible. So I just think it's really awesome. I've always been into the strange, weird, and creepy, everything like that, for literally as long as I can remember. And trust me, I know it's definitely not for everyone, and everyone doesn't exactly like it. But all the amazing support that I've had from everyone, it's just really cool that I can completely be myself and people enjoy it. So thank you. Y'all are awesome. I also have a new YouTube video up. I talk about Stephen McDaniel and the horrific crime he committed and how he realized he was caught in a live interview. The interview is included in the YouTube video. My YouTube is Jamie13 Horror, just like it is here on TikTok. I also have a brand new podcast out. This episode is called Psychosis. It's a really, really good and really creepy creepypasta. It does a deep dive into what it's like to have psychosis, but with a horrific twist. Every single person that has sent a donation to my Cash App, my Venmo, or even here on TikTok, y'all are seriously appreciated. Like, it is so, so awesome. Showing that y'all support me as a content creator is one of the coolest things ever. And the people who have gone to my website, jamie13horror.com, and bought merch. Literally support from every single angle. Some of y'all have even sent me fan art. So, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much to everyone who's shown me support. I'm incredibly grateful, and I really do believe I have the best followers.
I bet you didn't know these creepy facts that'll give you nightmares. Reportedly in the 1950s in Philadelphia, an object randomly fell from the sky. The police officers who were checking it out found sticky, odorless ooze leaking out of an unknown item, which potentially could have been purple, according to reports. But nothing bad happened, and apparently the object just dissolved. This news story was so weird that it actually inspired the movie The Blob. Just like dolls, ventriloquist dummies have become very popular in horror movies. If you really enjoy them, you can go to the Vin Haven Museum in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. It is filled with vintage ventriloquist dummies. In January of 2017, a 100-foot asteroid named AG-13 passed right by planet Earth. It was less than the distance of the moon. Scientists only realized that it was passing by 2 days prior. It almost hit Earth. Talk about a close call. There is something passing passing by 2 days prior. It almost hit Earth. Talk about a close call. There is something called the Devil's Bible. It's a legendary Latin manuscript. It's said to be the product of a monk's bargain with Satan. In the 13th century, a monk was about to be executed for his crimes, unless he could compose one simple, impressive work of art overnight. To achieve this impossible task, it's said the monk sold his soul to Satan and produced this 165-pound, 3-foot-long book. While that's just a legend, the Devil's Bible really does exist, and it appears to have been written by the hand of one single scribe. Hundreds of years ago, when people died on the battlefield or really just anywhere outside, they would just leave their bodies and let them rot. As they decomposed, their skulls would start to grow moss. People believed that this moss contained spiritual properties of the fallen soldier and would gather it to use as medicine. The moss that was found on the skull of someone who had been hanged, they said that was the most effective. I've